Welcome back to the channel, and this is a series of PYQ previous year's question paper solved series. We have finished 2013, 14, 15. Now we are going to take up the 2016 question paper, GS paper for ethics question paper. Again, there are two videos. The first video we are going to focus on the section A, and in the second video we are going to focus on the section B. Right, in the section B it is case studies. So let's get into the discussion of this. Let's start from the first question. The first question here is, explain how ethics contributes to the social and human well-being. This is direct question. In the first unit we have a consequences of ethics. The same thing, the consequences of ethics, how exactly ethics it is going to contribute to the human well-being and the social well-being. First answer it from an individual perspective, then answer it from a social perspective. It's a very simple question. And before that, give an introduction. It is basic definition of ethics. Ethics, it is a social norm, it is a social standard where everybody in a society, everybody in a community, there is an acceptance factor to it. It is a set of moral principle or a guideline. Usually ethics tell you what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad. So it is going to guide our action. Our decisions are based on the ethics, right? This is ethics. Now let's see the contribution of ethics, how exactly ethics is going to contribute individual well-being as well as the social well-being. Individual well-being, here ethics, I told you that these are the norms, these are the standards. See, if I follow these norms, these standards in my individual life, then I am going to express socially desirable character. I am going to respect you and you are also going to respect me. Somewhere the interpersonal relationship will be good. There will be socially acceptable character. I am going to focus on social acceptable character, so my relationship with the society, it will be good. At the same time, since I display this socially desirable character, there will be credibility for me, for my character, for my attitude in the society. So I get the confidence and it guides my decision making. The first and foremost, this is going to guide my course of action. Ethics is going to tell what is good, what is bad. So it is going to guide my action, it is going to guide my decision making. So my decisions are value based decision making. Then I am going to display socially desirable character. See, in society I have to respect you. I should not treat you in a wrong way. So if I showcase socially desirable character, you are also going to showcase the same thing. So the mutual understanding will be there. So this is, because of this, there will be good interpersonal relationship, and because of this, my credibility, it is going to increase in the society. At the same time, this is going to increase my confidence. Since I have that social acceptance, it is automatically going to increase my confidence level. So this is with respect to human well-being. And the next is social well-being. At the social level, see, every individual, combination of these individuals, that only makes a society. If everybody is showcasing these desirable characters, these values and virtues, then there will be peace in the society, there will be harmony in the society. So peace and harmony, tolerance will be there in the society. And if the society is working on these value system, then ultimately we are going to aim for our governance. It is going to aim for a inclusive development. Our governance, it is going to focus for equitable development, and again it is going to help in the social cohesion. Everybody is showcasing, everybody is expressing the social desirable character, then social cohesion will be there. There will not be social division. Or in turn, there will be tolerance, there will be acceptance, there will be social cohesion, and this is going to lead to a progressive society with progressive value system. And finally, this is going to strengthen the social capital. Social capital is mutual respect to each other. The social capital, it is going to strengthen in the society. So at individual level, these are the things. At the social level, these are the things. Very simple question, straightforward question. The same thing, the consequences of ethics in the first unit, the same thing you can replicate here, right? Let's go to the and end it up with a one conclusion. That would be sufficient. And the next question is that, why should impartiality and non-partisanship be considered as a foundational values in public services, especially in the present day socio-political context? Illustrate your answer with example. The question here, it is a straightforward question. Again, it is asking, it is expecting you to explain impartiality and non-partisanship, and you have to explain it from a present day socio-political context and give an example, right? So this is the question here. The first, give the basic definition of impartiality and non-partisanship. Then the question asks as, why it is considered as a foundational value in civil services. So here what you have to write is the need and necessity of impartiality and non-partisanship. You have to write it from that perspective. So why it is considered as a foundational values in public services, especially in a present day socio-economic political context, right? The first, let's focus on impartiality and let's focus on partisanship. Impartiality, what is impartiality? Impartiality, especially from the public service perspective, I am an IAS officer, I am a civil servant, and my conduct or my working being an civil servant, there should not be any partial behavior in my conduct, or there should not be any bias, there should not be any prejudice. So impartiality, it means that no bias, no prejudice, and my decision should be based on objectivity. See, this is a basic understanding. So I have to be neutral in my conduct, and there should not be, my decisions should not be based on any bias, my decision should not be based on prejudice, my decision should be based on the objectivity. So this is impartiality. This impartiality, there are two types. The one is public impartiality and another is political impartiality. Let's talk about political impartiality. Political impartiality is that whatever ideologies I have, see, I am an individual being, one side I am a civil servant, another side I am also a citizen of the country. So I have personal political ideologies. Whatever my personal political ideologies are, that should not reflect in public services. I should not showcase my individual affiliations, my individual ideologies in a public service. So that is political impartiality. This political impartiality is nothing but non-partisanship. So public impartiality, political impartiality. Political impartiality, that I should not express my political ideologies. I am a civil servant. If political executive, a minister, asks my advice or he want my guidance in policy formulation, I have to give my guidance. And as an example, political impartiality, see, I am not supposed to condemn the policies, I am not supposed to even praise the policies. My objective here is to help in the policy formulation, and I have to focus in the policy implementation, and I have to do it from a political neutrality stand. I should not involve my political ideologies there. So this is political impartiality. Then comes public impartiality. What exactly is the public impartiality? Public impartiality is treating everybody equally. See, civil services, you know that civil services is in between. Above we have a political executive and below we have a citizens of our country, right? Political impartiality talks about this aspect, public impartiality talks about this aspect. Here public impartiality, constitution says that everybody is equal in front of law. So there is a rule of law, everybody has to respect the rule of law. That is political impartiality. No discrimination based on age, sex, area, or the place of birth, all these things that is mentioned in the constitution. So public impartiality and political impartiality, this political impartiality is nothing but non-partisanship, right? This is one thing. Now the next part of the question talks about why it is considered as a foundational values, the necessity of impartiality. Let's see the necessity of impartiality. And for the example for impartiality and non-partisanship, you can write Election Commission of India. Even though there are people do criticize Election Commission of India that they favor ruling party and all these things, but Election Commission of India genuinely they are impartial. And another thing is Judiciary of India, Indian Judiciary, that also upholds this impartiality aspect, right? Now the next part is that, and another noticeable aspect is that in our country the compromise is happening with respect to impartiality. It is not only in our country, around the world the political impartiality, the non-partisanship, it has been compromised to a very large extent. Even in our country the factions have been created. Even within political ideology only there are different factions. There is a caste based grouping are there, and rivalry based on the religion, language. So it is there already. So now objective is that we need to get rid of all these things. We should not compromise with this value system of impartiality, because ultimately if there is if there is partiality in the administration, there is no trust deficit. People are not going to trust them. If there is impartiality, I have confidence in the administration that if I go to administration, if I go into the office of civil servant for my work, I will be treated fine. There will no discrimination. So trust there will be credibility, there will be trust factor, there will be trustworthiness, or else there will be severe trust deficit, and this is going to impact the administration, this is going to impact the overall the democratic setup, right. Now let's see the necessity of these values. Why do we consider impartiality and non-partisanship as a foundational value? The first and foremost thing is, I told you that this is going to strengthen the credibility and this is going to increase the trustworthiness. So when the credibility and the trustworthiness increases, the people participation, it is going to support the people participation. So people centric administration we are going to see. So it is going to strengthen, it is going to increase the trust. So people centric administration we can see, right. Then see, if I am politically neutral, if I am non-partisan, then I can ask question to the political executive. See, I am not getting any favor from the political executive, I am not getting any favor from a minister or a MLA, MP. Now if he is doing something wrong, I can question him. So because of this credibility, I can question the wrongdoing. So second thing is, I can ask appropriate questions to the political leadership, right. And then whether it is promotion, whether it is transfer, everything will be based on the merit only. Since there is no political affiliations in the civil services, every decision will be based on the merit only. So it is based on the merit, not on the political consideration, and it prevents misuse of power and also political favoritism. See, political favoritism, it helps in the appointment, it helps in the transfer, and even after retirement also, post retirement also, it works in your favor. They are going to give you some position, maybe they will make us a governor of some state. See, these kind of things happens in our country. If there is non-partisanship, if there is political impartiality, then the misuse of power is not going to happen, political favoritism, it is not going to happen. And another important aspect is, this is an important tool to resist the corruption, and it is also important tool to resist the political pressure in the administration. And finally, the essential feature of all the foundational value is to go for a equality in the society, go for a social economic development, go for a fairness in the society. And this foundational value also, it ensures fairness in the administration, fairness in the society, it also ensures equality in the society and equality in administration. So this is the reason, because of all these reasons, we consider political impartiality or non-partisanship or impartiality as a foundational value of the civil services, right. This is explanation of this particular question. Let's move to the next one. The next question is, what do you understand by the terms governance, good governance and ethical governance? See, usually governance is, it is a manner in which power is exercised. So manner in which power is exercised, see, manner in which power is exercised, and why do you exercise this power? To manage the country's resources, and by managing country's resources, we are moving towards socio-economic development. So governance is a manner in which power is exercised to deal with country's resources for the socio-economic development of the country. So this is governance. And in the governance, as an example, you have to give the example also. Every question you have to give the example also. If you have to write example for governance, it is responsibility of a government to provide education, healthcare services, public distribution services. These are the responsibilities. Fulfilling these responsibilities is nothing but a governance only, right? Simple. Governance you understood. Next is good governance. The upgradation of governance is good governance. Governance, good, again the same thing, it is manner in which power is exercised for the socio-economic development. Here in the good governance, there are some positive attributes. Certain positive attributes are inculcated in administration. And why do we inculcate these values? For making administration efficient, equitable and beneficial to all stakeholders. So for better administration, for efficient and excellent administration, we go for a good governance. I told you that good governance includes some of the positive attributes. What are these positive attributes? These positive attributes include, it's not visible here, it talks about being accountable, it talks about values of transparency, responsibility, equitable and inclusive, effective and efficient, following the rule of law, participatory administration, citizen partisanship, and consent oriented. So these are some of the positive attributes we add to the governance, then it become good governance. And in the governance, example was education, healthcare, all these things. But in the good governance, again there is an upgradation. If you have to write examples for good governance, then write about RTI, then write about e-governance, and write about grievance redressal. These are some of the examples for good governance. See, as an example, Right to Information Act, RTI, e-governance, grievance redressal, all these things you can mention it as an example for good governance. And the next part of the question talks about ethical governance. What is this ethical governance? Again, it is an upgradation of good governance. Good governance, we involved positive attributes, and here we involved ethical principles. We involve moral principles. And what are the moral principles? Honesty, integrity, probity, tolerance, dedication. These are the moral principles we are going to empathy. These are the moral principles we are going to add to the governance. Then it becomes ethical governance. And in the second ARC 10th report, it mentions about some of these ethical principles, some of these moral principles that need to be inculcated. These are also called foundational values. These values need to be inculcated so that our governance become ethical governance. And it talks about, and second ARC 10th report talks about objectivity. It talks about empathy towards weaker section of the society, vulnerable section of the society, commitment and dedication for the upliftment of the vulnerable section of the society, for the public good, adherence to the highest standards of probity, integrity and the conduct, impartiality and non-partisanship. See, all these things are some of the key principles we need to include in the governance to make it as a ethical governance. Again, next you have to give an example. Example is that in good governance also we had a social welfare programs, and in ethical governance what happens? See, MG Narega you can write it for a good governance also, and even in the ethical governance also, and old age pension schemes, all these things are there in ethical governance also. But make sure that while implementation of these schemes, the aspect of fairness, the aspect of equality and equity is implemented along with it. So we have social welfare scheme like MG Narega, old age pension scheme as a part of good governance, but here the fairness and justice, equality aspects are added to it. So the same welfare scheme, when you add the concept of fairness, when you add the concept of justice, then becomes ethical governance, right? So that would be sufficient. Finally, you give one particular conclusion, decent conclusion, that would be sufficient. Let's move to the next question. The next question, discuss Mahatma Gandhi's concept of 7 sins. Straightforward question. You have to write 7 sins and you have to give the explanation, right? Let's get into the discussion of this 7 sins of Mahatma Gandhi. And see, Mahatma Gandhi told that these are 7 aspects, 7 set of ideas which are going to undermine moral principles of the society, which are going to undermine social and individual morality. And let's see these 7 sins. The first sin is that wealth without work. See, here work symbolizes the value of discipline, work symbolizes the value of hard work. And if you are getting wealth without putting any hard work, without being disciplined, without giving your contribution to generate this wealth, then you are going to compromise with so much of value system, and this is going to create some kind of negative impact on the society. So you compromise with the values of hard work and discipline and earning money through the unethical means. So you eventually, when you don't have this value system of hard work, discipline and all, then you are ready to get work in a very easy way, and maybe in future it might turn into a unethical means also. So this is detrimental for the society, this is not good for the society, this is going to undermine the social morality, right? Again, the second sin is pleasure without conscience. See, everybody want to enjoy in our life. I want to be happy in my life, you want to be happy in my life. So pleasure is also part of my existence, but make sure that your enjoyment should not impact the lives of other person. You should not, your enjoyment, your pleasure should not impact somebody in a negative sense. So enjoyment should not be at the expense of others. As an example, you might have seen this thing in news so many times that the sports car the parents have given a sports car to the teenager kid, and the car met with an accident and people were injured and they are admitted to hospital, and some of them have lost their lives also. Here the kid want to enjoy the life, but there is no distinction between what is my boundary and what I should not do, and what are the social norms I have to follow. So this is what happens when you want to enjoy life but there is no conscience. Again, this is going to harm the society. So again, this is going to undermine the social morality, right? And then the third one is knowledge without character. Knowledge without character. See, again, here you have the knowledge, but if you don't use it for a social well-being, if you focus only on your self-development or self-interest aspect, then again it is going to impact the society. As an example, you are a doctor, you are a very good doctor, your diagnosis is good, your treatment is good, but if you don't have this value system, what happens? You write down unnecessary tests, you give unnecessary tablet just because of some commission from that company, you write unnecessary tablets here. Here what you are doing is you are compromising. You don't have character, you have knowledge, but you misusing that knowledge for some personal benefit. So here social benefits have been compromised for the personal benefit. So again, knowledge without character, this is not good for the society. And then comes commerce without morality. Commerce without morality, commerce ultimately it focus on a profit. Ultimately, if I am starting a business, it means that I want to make a money out of it, I want to be profit. But here if you don't have morality in profit, then you will go to any extent to make money, and you want to cheat the customers also, so you will go to any extent to make money or to make a fortune here. If that happens, again this is not good for the society. This is going to impact the society in a negative way. Again, this is also one among the deadly sins. So this is also going to undermine the individual morality, undermine the social morality, right? Then the fifth, science without humanity. Science without humanity. Science talks about innovation. So science talk about research and development, and here whatever the innovation happens, it should help the human beings, it should help the human race. It means that somewhere there should be a win-win situation. But if you don't have humanity, then it is going to impact the society in a negative way. Take an example of nuclear technology only, and if the nuclear technology, it can be used to provide electricity, the same nuclear technology can be used for a gene therapy to treat the cancer, and the same nuclear technology can be used to make atom bombs, and if those atom bombs go to a wrong hands, this is going to be extremely negative for the entire planet. Again, science, the innovations should be used for a social well-being, should be used for a humanity, but if you don't have that humanity, then again the effects will be disastrous for the planet on the whole, right? And the next we have religion without sacrifice. Religion without sacrifice. Religion should make you better person. The practices you follow in that religion should make you better person, or else just following the meaningless rituals, this is not going to get you anywhere. Again, this is not going to be useful for the society. You are following blindly without questioning, even without self improvement. Again, this is going to undermine the social morality. And finally, politics without principle. Politics, mainly it is about the power, it is handling of the resources. If politics don't have that principle or the moral aspect, then you will do anything to stay in power, you will do anything to keep resources in your hand. So manipulation, communal tensions and the clashes, everything happens because politics without principle, politics without morality. So these are the 7 deadly sins of Mahatma Gandhi. So go through with these 7 deadly sins, and even these 7 deadly sins you can use it in your case study explanation also. Again, I tell you that implementing everything is very difficult, but intelligently you can implement these things also in your case studies, right? So go through with this 7 sins. And then let's move to the next question. The next question is, analyze John Rawls' concept of social justice in the Indian context. So first explain the John Rawls social justice, then connect it with the modern Indian socio-political context, right? John Rawls' concept of social justice, it talks about one thing, that it is based on fairness, it is based on equality. So here, idea of fairness, idea of equality, this is what John Rawls of social justice is based on, right? That is one thing, fairness and equality. And this fairness and equality talks about whatever the goods and services by government, goods and services created by government, there should be an equal opportunity, there should be an equal distribution. So not equal distribution, equal benefit. So there should be an Everyone should receive equal opportunity and equal benefit from the goods and services it produces. Usually the government it produces or the country it produces. So this is social justice, and there are two aspects you need to remember with respect to John Rawls social justice. One is original position, another one is a veil of ignorance. So veil of ignorance and the original position. Veil of original position is that you are a decision maker and you have to take that decision standing in original position. Your original position is behind the veil of ignorance. See, me being a decision maker, I am not going to be impacted by any of the social affiliations, and here what happens, I am going to maintain that distance. I am going to detach from my social connections and then I am going to take a decision. Here I am not aware of my social positions and I am going to make a decision, that is original position and veil, behind veil of ignorance. So that is social justice. Now how do you connect it with the present Indian context? See, all the social policies, the welfare schemes, everything that is based on this ideology of John Rawls social justice only. We have a minimum wage program, we have a program of progressive taxation, and we have a various welfare schemes also. Everything based on this concept of fairness and equality, based on the concept of equal opportunity and equal benefits. So all the social policies in the countries, it is based on this concept only. And then I told you that it works on the idea of equality, equity and fairness, and here equal access, all the services, whether it is education services, healthcare services, whatever the country provides us, every service there is an equal access to everybody. So equal access to all the services, basic services given by the country, and there is an equal access to political participation also. Theoretically you can also become a Prime Minister of India, I can also become a Prime Minister of India, theoretically I am saying. So there is no restriction, I can contest election. Winning and losing, that is different thing altogether, but there is no restriction for any citizen of the country to contest for election. So that is their participation in election process, there is an equal opportunity there also. And even we have a different institution, legislation, judiciary, executive. In all these institutions also, whether it is participation or to get the benefits out of it or to derive the services out of it, there is an equal access. So that is also based on the John Rawls. And even if you look at the Indian Constitution, the Constitution values are based on John Rawls social justice. And not only the Indian Constitution, so many constitutions around the world, they have picked up this concept of social justice. So basic definitions, basic understanding you write regarding John Rawls social concept, then link it with 6 points are sufficient, write it and link it with the social justice in the present context, in the Indian context, right? So let's move to the next one. The next question is that discuss the public service code as recommended by second ARC, second Administrative Reforms Commission. You have to write about the public service code. Public service code, this is mentioned in the second ARC report, Administrative Reforms Commission, especially in the 10th report they have mentioned public service code. And here public service code, it talks about a guidelines. It has given a guidelines, and these guidelines are going to make administration effective, efficient and people centered. So public service code recommended by second ARC Commission, it is set of guidelines. It gives you set of guidelines for the administration. And what is the objective of giving these guidelines? To make administration ethical, efficient and citizen centric, right? This is public service code which is mentioned in second ARC. Now what exactly it talked about? It talked about certain principles. Here you know the foundational values, the same foundational value you can repeat it here also. So the key principles of public service code, it talks about empathy, it talks about objectivity, it talks about tolerance, it talks about integrity, probity, and all the same thing, transparency, accountability, responsibility. So these are the key principles. The same thing you are going to repeat it here and give a one-line explanation. What is objectivity? No prejudice, no bias, you take a decision based on established rules. And impartiality, again we just talked about political impartiality, non-partisanship, and integrity, being honest and sincere. Then we have a empathy, then we have a transparency. Just write one-liners for all these key principles. Next, this public service code, it operates at 3 levels. So the first apex level, and then comes second level, and then we have a third level. See, the first level, apex level, it will tell you what are the principle, being a civil servant, what are the principles you need to imbibe. So that is what apex level talks about it. Apex level, it tells about clear and concise statement of overarching values and ethical standard that civil servants should imbibe at the apex level. Then it operates at the second level, and in second level it talks about what are the expected behavior of civil servant, expected behavior of a civil servant, that is mentioned in the second level. And in the third level it talks about do's and don'ts. Ultimately it talks about code of conduct. The second level talks about code of ethics, the third level it talks about code of conduct. Code of conduct tells you what to do and what not. Do's and don'ts will be given by code of conduct, and if you don't follow, there is a punishment to it. As an example, you are not supposed to give briefing to the press, media people, or you are not supposed to receive any gifts. These are the do's and don'ts with respect to the third level. So it is a list of accepted, unaccepted behavior or the actions of civil servants. So it operates at the 3 level. Mentioned this also, and finally you give a one simple conclusion. Right? Now let's move to the next one. The next question: the corruption causes misuse of governance, misuse of government treasury, administrative inefficiency and obstruction in the path of national development. Discuss Kautilya's views. So this is with respect to corruption, and you have to dissect this in a 3 parts. The first thing, corruption, it is going to cause misuse of government treasury. Corruption, it is going to cause administrative inefficiency. Corruption, it is going to obstruct the national development also. First address these things and finally give a remedy also. And this quotation is by Kautilya. Kautilya Arthashastra, he has mentioned this, and the same thing, expand this particular quotation, and finally you give the remedies. Remedies also, I would suggest give only those remedies which are mentioned by Kautilya's only. So we will see the remedies also. First, let's dissect this statement. Corruption, it is going to cause misuse of treasury. How the misuse of treasury happens? By manipulation of the public fund. You are not handling the public fund properly, manipulation is happening, and mismanagement of resources. By doing this also, government treasury, misuse of government treasury, and loss of taxpayers money, maybe leakage, delays, whatever, but loss of taxpayers money, it is happening due to the faulty planning and all. So that is their loss of taxpayers money, and diversion of state revenue for unnecessary things or which is genuinely not needed. When these things happens, the government treasury, government money is misused. So what exactly is misusing? Corruption. Because of corruption, misuse of treasury, government treasury is happening through these ways. Again, next, administrative inefficiency. Usually administrative inefficiency happens in a 2 way. One thing, intentionally I am not working, I am not giving my best to the administration. Another thing, I don't have the capacity, I don't have the competency. Here corruption is reason for administrative inefficiency. And how exactly corruption is impacting the administrative inefficiency? The first is, I am acting in my self interest, I am not acting in the public interest. And then there is an act of negligence, culture of negligence. If there is a corruption, it is going to create culture of negligence. Because of that reason also, it is impacting administrative inefficiency and erosion on public trust. So even people are not going to trust, and people participation will not be there. Eventually this will lead to there is no accountability, so it will lead to the administrative inefficiency and compromise in the quality of work. So all these reasons, these are happening because of corruption, and because of this administrative inefficiency is happening. And then obstruction to the national development. Again, corruption is obstructing the national development. How exactly corruption is obstructing the national development? One thing, it is disrupting the revenue collection. So a lot of corruption is happening, the revenue collection itself is going to get impacted. Then poor execution of project, there is time bound, time set is there, but you are not finishing any project according to the time that has been set. Then leaks and delays in the policy implementation, policy formulation, also policy implementation, or leaks and delays are happening, and on the whole, corruption weakens the democratic institution, and this obstructs the national development, right? So this is with respect to Corruption going to impact the treasury of the government. It is going to impact the efficiency of administration. This is going to impact the national development. Then what is the solution for it? Solution is remedies, the Kautilya's remedy. Kautilya has given remedies, and let's see the remedies here. The first and foremost thing he talked about is there must be the network of spies, network of informant. See, this network of spies and informant, it is not only restricted to the security perspective or foreign affairs perspective, even with respect to corruption also, you need to have spies and informants in various departments, and they give the inputs what exactly happening in the department, right? And another important aspect the Kautilya talked about is adequate salary should be given. And see, the reason for the corruption is that lack of money. When the salary is very low, people tend to get that money from a different ways. So if you yourself give adequate and very good salary, people are not going to get into a corruption. This is the idea. See, even after giving adequate salaries, if they still involve all these things, then there should be a coercive treatment. That coercive treatment is that severe punishment should be there, and detailed accounting procedure should be there, and regular audit should be there in the administration, and regular transfers should be there, or else what happens, these administrators at one particular position, they are going to increase their influence in that area, and they can manipulate the things. So regular transfer should be there, so that people are not going to develop a vested interest in that particular place. And then see, even though within an let me explain it in a different way. Selecting honest and capable officer. How do you select this honest and capable officers here? Government knows that who is the honest officers, who is dishonest. They know that, even though they cannot prove it, but they know that who is honest and who is dishonest. Because of this network, informants, all these things, even at the present modern time also, in every department, government knows who is the honest officer, who is dishonest officer. Use this information and select the honest and capable officers only, and avoid these incapable, corrupt officers for the administration. This is another remedy. And finally, emphasize the ethical conduct and loyalty. Loyalty is another aspect. When you are loyal to the state, you make sure that you are going to give your 100%, your focus will be on the welfare of the state. So this is another remedy. These are the remedies given by the Kautilya itself. So the statement quotation is by Kautilya. So we talked about corruption and how exactly it is going to impact the misuse of power, inefficiency, all these things, national development, and finally conclusion, remedies, and finally one conclusion. Let's move to the next question. The next question is, how could social influence and persuasion contribute to the success of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan? So how exactly social influence and persuasion, this is going to contribute to the success of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, it is an behavioral change campaign. It talks about sanitation, sanitary, all these things. Fine. We are not going to answer it from a paper 3 perspective. Here we have to answer it from a ethics perspective. Now, how exactly social influence impacted the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan? How exactly persuasion impacted the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan? What exactly the social influence is that? Social influence is that I am going to be influenced. I change my attitude, I change my behavior because of somebody else. So somebody else is influencing me. Other person is influencing me. That is social influence. So my attitude, my cognitions, my thought process, my behavior, my attitude, my emotions are influenced by other person. That is social influence. Persuasion is one of the methodologies of social influence only. Here also, my emotions, my behavior, my attitude is getting influenced by other person, but here it is based on rationality. Persuasion, it is based on rationality. This is a slight difference here. Now you have to connect this to the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, how exactly social influence has impacted the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, how exactly persuasion has impacted the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So let's talk about it. So let's talk about social influence first, then we'll talk about persuasion, right? So the first way of influencing or impacting the attitude and behavior of the people is through the conformity. Conformity is that, in a simple term, it is the peer pressure. If everybody around you is doing something, you also will be somewhere convinced to do the same thing. Here, community leaders are involved in the aspect of sanitation, then people in that community, they are also going to follow it. The peer pressure, the aspect of community leader, there is an impact on the people in the community also. So conformity is one way where the attitude and the behavior of the people regarding sanitation, it is changed. So this is one way, one of the ways of social influence to change the behavior. Then we have obedience. Obedience is that there are influential personalities in the society, maybe a religious leader or a head of the village or a film actor in that region, MLA, MP. So if they say something, people follow it. And if somebody with authority, power, if he says something, if police says, if traffic police tell you something, you are going to follow it. If the same advice is given by any other person in a road, you are not going to follow. So that is obedience. So even influence of in authoritative figures in a society to guide people for the sanitary practice. So this also give the positive impact or impacted Swachh Bharat Abhiyan in a positive way. Then reward. Reward is a central government. It is awarding gram panchayats as the open defecation free, and it is giving a cash prizes also. Nationwide recognition was also there. The status of ODF free status, ODF plus free status, these kind of recognition rewards were given. So this is also one of the ways of social influence to change the behavior of the people towards sanitation. And then affirmations. Affirmations, usually the emotional component, usually in our attitude we have a cognitive component and emotional component, and these kind of affirmations, this focused on the emotional component. In the second chapter, well, if you go through with the concept of attitude, where you know the CAB model, the cognitive, affective and behavioral model, in that affirmations focus on emotional aspect of a attitude. Emotional aspect, it is nothing but affective component of a attitude model, right? So these are the four ways. This is how the social influence impacted Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Now let's talk about persuasion. So how exactly persuasion changed the behavior, attitude of person with respect to Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Again, I told you that persuasion is also one of the ways of social influence. Here also your thought process, your attitude, behavior, it is getting impacted by other person. The first way, liking a role model. Simple example, Boost is the Secret of My Energy by Sachin Tendulkar, and the teenager, they bought the product in a very big number. Here you have a liking towards a person, and if he says something, you are going to follow. And even for the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, there was a dignity campaign was carried out, and in this dignity campaign, cricketers, they were they were also in advertisement, they were also talking about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and Amitabh Bachchan, Vidya Balan, these kind of film actors and social activists and even the politicians, they were all involved in the dignity campaign. And this dignity campaign, these are influential persons, they impacted the people mindset. The persuasion happened due to the role model concept of dignity campaign. And then social proof. Social proof, it is that if I want to join to a college, I want to do the engineering. Now I don't know which college to join. Then I ask people around me. Everybody says that this particular college is number one. Then if everybody is telling that this college is number one, then I will also get convinced that okay, this must be number one. That is the reason everybody is doing. If everybody is following sanitary programs and procedures, then I am also going to get influenced by them. So if everybody is doing, it must be good, and maybe we also are supposed to do it. So I also start doing it. So social proof, here people adopted sanitary practices after they saw others doing it. And then we have authority. Authority, here also obedience is the same thing. If a authoritative person in a society or influential person, if they say something, religious head, if they say something, you are going to follow it. If a head of the family tell you something, you are going to follow it because they have some certain kind of authority and you have certain kind of obedience to them. So that also impacted the here the local authorities were involved in Swachh Bharat mission, and it has created an impact. And finally, commitment and consistency. If you look at the advertisements, now it has been reduced. Before that, there was consistent advertisements with respect to Swachh Bharat mission, and it means that there is a commitment from a government side and there is a consistency from a government side, and this has impacted the cognitive component of a people. I told you about the CAB model, cognitive, affective, behavioral, and this commitment and consistency, this focused on the cognitive component of the attitude of a person. Again, through this way, using a social influence, using a persuasion, government wanted to change that attitude towards sanitation, the behavioral change campaigning of sanitation. So this is with respect to this particular question, and give a final conclusion. Let's move to the next question. The next question is that law and ethics are considered to be two tools for controlling human conduct so as to make it conducive to civilized social existence. Here, in a simple way, I will explain it. Human conduct is my behavior, my actions. Human conduct can be controlled by both law and ethics. So this is the question now. Then how I discuss how they achieve this objective. This is first part of the question, and the second part of the question you have to give example, show how to differ in their approach. See, law control the human behavior in a different way, ethics control the human behavior in a different way, and this you have to explain it first, and then you have to give the example and finally give a conclusion. So let's talk about this question. The first aspect here is give the basic definition of law and ethics. Law, it is a set of rules, usually rules and regulation, and this is enforced by certain agencies. There is an enforcing agency. Law, it is a system of rules. This is enforced through an agency. And why do we need the law? To guide the behavior of the people. Ultimately, this is enforced by legal authority to govern the behavior of the people. And ethics, you know that these are the social set of moral principles, socially accepted moral principles. So everybody in a society, it is expected that we are all supposed to follow these moral principles, and it guides my action, it guides my decision making. This is with respect to ethics. So this is ethics and law. Now let's take up that how law, it is going to control the human conduct. So how law, it is going to conduct the my behavior. See, law, it is, there is an external accountability is there in the law factor, because there is a law. If you don't follow the law, there is a physical punishment, you have to face the punishment. So there is a fear factor. So law controls your external actions, law controls your external behavior. And another aspect is law is universal. One law for the whole country, they have to follow it. Law is accepted because it is for implemented, or it is formulated by a people representative. So there is an acceptance factor is there, there is a consistency is there, and it is universal. And another aspect is law, it is going to protect the rights of the people, privileges of the people. So it is enforced through the police, it is enforced through the court. So ultimately, law control my behavior, law control my actions due to the enforcement agencies. If I don't follow it, then I can be punished. There is a physical punishment to it. So because of physical punishment, it can control my behavior, it can control my actions in the society. This is how law, it is going to control human conduct. Now let's talk about ethics. How ethics, it is going to control the human conduct, how it is going to control my behavior. Ethics, it is internal accountability, law is external accountability. I am accountable to the police, I am accountable to the state, but here I am accountable to my conscience, right? There is an internal accountability. Here ethics talk about, even if my intentions are wrong, then also I am wrong. So even evil intentions, inner motives, even my evil intentions, inner motives, all these things are judged by ethics. So, and accountability factor is internal, so I am answerable to my conscience, and there is a social acceptance. There is no physical punishment, but again there is a social acceptance is there. Law is universal and law is consistent, but ethics, there is a factor of relativism is there. It depends on context, it depends on the situation, and it is enforced by conscience, it is enforced by social acceptance. So society, they are going to be the deciding factor whether you are ethical or non-ethical. So this is with respect to law and ethics. How law control my behavior, how ethics control my behavior, you understood. Now you have to give an example. Example, I would suggest take an example of child labor. See, child labor. Law can control the activity of child labor, and another side, ethics. Ethics can also control the child labor. How exactly law it is going to control? Because there is a established rules. We have a protection of child labor. There is an act, and even in constitution, fundamental right, it has been mentioned that you can take action against child labor. So law, there is a physical punishment, because I am afraid of this physical punishment. If I follow this, people are going to, the police are going to take action against me. Because of that, I am not going to involve, I am not going to support the child labor. in my premise. At the same time, even ethics can also control the activity of child labor, because if I am ethical, I have the moral principles, I have the values and virtues, and my value system tells me that this is an age of learning, it is not an age of earning. So I am not going to employ any children. I am not going to, even if somebody is employing, I am going to raise my voice and I am going to take action against this child labor. So here, because of physical punishment, I am not doing it. Here there is a moral principle, there are values and virtues inside me, and my conscience, it is not going to accept the child labor. So both law and ethics, they are going to control this particular activity in a different way. There is an external accountability, there is an internal accountability. This is how the two of them control the human conduct. So they control the human conduct, right? And another aspect is law. There is a to and fro connection between law and ethics. Law has impacted the ethics, the social norms. At the same time, even ethical social norms these norms have also impacted the law. As an example, sati, and in the Western countries there was a slavery system. These were socially accepted behavior, and people raised their voice, and Britishers, they have made the law against the sati and untouchability later on. So law has changed the social behavior. Now untouchability or the sati system or the slavery system, it is not practiced, it is illegal, it is unethical. Here the starting point is law. There was an established law. Because of that, people were scared of following the sati system and they stopped it. At the same time, there are social morals, there are social ethical values that have impacted the law also in our country. If you look at the constitutional values, it talks about secularism. This secularism came from our civilization. There is a tolerance, there is an acceptance factor in our civilization that impacted the law also, that impacted the statutory law, that impacted the constitutional morality. So the to and fro connection is there between law and ethics, ethics and law. And finally, you have to give a conclusion. Conclusion is that, see, the balance should be there between both law and ethics. Then only we can have a strong social structure. Usually what happens, we have a law regarding dowry, we have a law against child marriage, but it still happens. People take dowry, and even child marriages are happening. Even though it is illegal, it is still happening because there is no social acceptance of this law. So people should accept the law, there should be social acceptance of law. At the same time, even law should consider the ethical objectivity, ethical principles of the society. So the balance, this is going to strengthen the social structure, this is going to impact the social function. So this is the ultimate conclusion, right? Let's move to the next one. The next question is that our attitude towards life, work, other people and society are generally shaped unconsciously by the family and social surroundings in which we grow up. Some of these unconsciously acquired attitudes and values are often undesirable in the citizens of a modern, democratic, egalitarian society. Here I'll explain it in a simple way. Our attitudes are impacted by family and the society, right? So this is the first part of the question. So address this first part of the question. Then the next part of the question tells that I told you that family is going to impact my attitude, but it is not only the positive attitude, I am going to learn negative attitude also. Now what are these undesirable values? What are these undesirable values prevalent in the today's educated Indian? This is the first question. And the second question is, how can you change this undesirable value into socially desirable values? How can such undesirable attitudes be changed and socio-ethical values considered necessary in public services be cultivated in aspiring and serving civil servant? In a simple way, first address this aspect of how exactly family and the society, it is going to impact the attitude. Then you talk about, it is not only the positive attitude, even negative attitude also we learn from a family and society. Then write about what are these negative attitude, what are these undesirable values, and finally you give a solution how to change this undesirable values to the socially desirable values. That is the demand of this question. So let's talk about this question. The first part, in see this concept, this question, it links to the first unit. In the first unit we had a discussion where attitude, it is influenced, there are primary three agencies, they have a significant influence on the attitude. The first is family, and the second is education, and the third is society. And here question is focusing on family and society only, so we can remove the education here. So how attitude it is going to be formed or impacted by family. Family is a primary socializing agent, so whether knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or subconsciously, we learn things from the family, we learn things from the parents and the family members. So primary socializing agent, so we learn it. So that is how my attitude is impacted, my attitude is formed. At the same time, society also. Society includes religion, customs, rituals, even the economic system, whether it is a capitalist country, socialist country, or the democratic setup, or the leadership. Everything matters a lot in my attitude formation, right? So my attitude is impacted by my family, it is impacted by my society. Now I have learned some positive attitude from my society, but if my society is following the caste discrimination, class discrimination, I am also going to learn that also. If my family is doing has that patriarchal attitude, degrading the women at the household work, then I am also going to, it is also going to impact me also somehow. Later on I might change the attitude, but initial stages it is going to impact me, it is going to impact my value system. So it is not only the positive attitudes, even the negative attitudes are also I am going to learn. So next question is asking, discuss such undesirable values. Now let's see these kind of undesirable values which are prevalent in even educated Indians, right? So what are these undesirable values here? The first thing is the caste discrimination, caste prejudice, class discrimination. Caste prejudice, class-based discrimination, it is there even in the modern educated, even in this scenario also. The patriarchal tendency, patriarchal mindset, it is there, it is still there even in the educated modern people also. The gender biasness, it is there. And religious supremacy, communal intolerance, this also, if a family is against particular religious, a particular set of religious group, then again even you are also going to imbibe the same thing. So religious supremacy or the communal intolerance, this is also undesirable values, undesirable qualities we are learning from the family, we are learning from the society. And lack of integrity and corruption. Corruption is that there is a social apathy towards the corruption. Usually when I started preparing for civil services, people used to tell that if you become an IAS officer, you can make a lot of money. I have never heard people telling that you can serve the society. You can, maybe one or two persons they might have told this, but most of them they used to tell that. Even my friends also, they used to tell that I am going to make this much of money. See, there is a social apathy. It is not considered something wrong in our society being a corrupt. Until and unless you don't get caught, you are accepted. People know that you are corrupt, but you are still treated in a very good manner in the society. That social apathy is there in the corruption. Again, this is impacting my value system also. I have learned this thing from a society only. So lack of integrity and corruption, this shows the moral bankruptcy in the society. And disrespecting rule of law and constitution morality. Rule of law, equality, everybody should be treated equally. Am I following rule of law? You might have seen that the equality, liberty, fraternity, see these kind of rule breaking attitude, it's there in the people. So there are rules, rule breaking attitude is there in Indian society, in Indian people. So that is another thing, another undesirable characters we have, especially the jumping the traffic signal. These are there. And even to get a certificate, you pay money to get the certificate, to caste certificate or income certificate, you pay money for that, even to get a driver license. See, everything, the disrespecting rule of law is there. That is another undesirable character, undesirable value I have learned from the society or from the family. Then rejecting the social, I have certain social responsibility, but now what I am doing is I am focusing on my self-interest only. I have become self-centered because I think that no matter what, country is not going to change. If I might take step at this point of time, but tomorrow who will do it? So I am taking a step back from my moral responsibility. I am not taking any moral responsibility. I am being self-centered. This is also, you might have seen a lot of case studies in YouTube videos also. People are fighting, nobody comes there to help them. See, these kind of things happens because we don't connect with the social responsibility. We think that this is none of our business. So let them fight and let them decide. So this is what happens. And then very low civic sense, especially my civic sense, I have certain civic duty, keeping my surroundings clean and paying my taxes. and participation in the voting election process, all these things, but even I am not even following these civic duties. Low civic sense regarding all these things, this is also an undesirable values I have learned from the society, I have learned from the family, and these are prevalent even in the today's educated Indians. So, right, this is first question. And the next question talks about how do you change these undesirable attitudes into socio-ethnical values. So these are undesirable attitudes, and how do you change this? The basic things: value education, sensitive training. These are the basic things, you can write it down. Value based training, ethical education and value based training. And see, human resources are very much important in our country for the economic development, but at the same time, for that human resources, we need to focus on ethical development of human resources. When you have this value system, you have knowledge. When you have values also along with knowledge, then this is going to help the society. But what is happening is we are focusing on human resources, we are not focusing on ethical development of human resources. So focus on ethical development of human resources. Then we need to focus on social capital. The reason is the social capital, it is necessary for human capital. When the human capital is strong, then there is a economic development happens in a country, right? And how do you strengthen the social capital in the society? Through the ethical leadership. So we need to have an ethical leadership, and this ethical leadership, they should focus on social capital. When social capital is very strong, this is going to strengthen the human capital and eventually the economic development, right? The socio-economic development. Then we have a tools like RTA, citizen charter, citizen grievance redressal, all these things are there, but still implementation is not proper. So make sure that proper implementation is there with respect to these tools. And we have a code of ethics and code of conduct in administration, in various organization bodies, we have these. But implementation, enforcement aspect, very weak enforcement, very weak implementation. So make sure that there is a proper implementation, proper enforcement, right? And finally, in the administration, in order to change these undesirable values, there should be a factor of accountability. Even if I am having evil thoughts or bad intention, there should be an internal accountability should be there, responsibility should be there, and there should be a feedback mechanism from a trustworthy people. These are some of the steps where we can transfer undesirable attitude into ethical values, right? So this would be sufficient with respect to this question. Let's move to the next one. The next question is that anger is a harmful negative emotion. It is injurious to both personal and the work life. This is a statement. Now the question comes, discuss how it leads to a negative emotions and undesirable behavior. So you have to focus how exactly anger, this is going to lead to the negative emotion, that is emotional consequence, and undesirable behavior, behavioral consequence. So answer from two perspectives: how exactly anger lead to emotional consequences, anger lead to a behavioral consequences, and finally how can it be managed and controlled, right? So what is anger? Anger, very intense emotions, and when you don't control it properly, and there is a feeling of displeasure, it is an intense emotion with a feeling of displeasure, and when you don't control it properly, when you don't manage your anger, the consequences will be disastrous. Consequence will be, it is going to impact your behavior. So anger, it is an intense human emotion, and there is a feeling of displeasure, and when it is not managed properly, this is going to cause a severe distress and undesirable behavior. So this is a basic definition of anger. Now how anger leads to the negative emotion and undesirable behavior, this is what question is asking for. Now let's again dissect this. First see the how exactly anger lead to the negative emotion, emotional consequence. Then we'll see the how anger lead to the undesirable behavior, behavioral consequences, right? So let's see the emotional consequences here. See, anger, I told you that there is a feeling of displeasure is there, and this displeasure, this is going to lead to the emotional instability, and this emotional instability, it will eventually lead to the emotional turmoil. And when you are in this emotional turmoil, you cannot take a decision properly. This is going to impact your judgment, this is going to cloud your judgment. So this is going to impact the judgment, and you are going to take a irrational decisions, right? And another thing is, when you have anger, when you have these emotion, this is going to amplify further negative emotions in your body. Already you have anger, and this is going to further intensify other negative emotions like resentment, grudge, revenge. It is going to intensify the other negative emotion. At the same time, if there are any positive emotions in your body, I'm sorry, this is going to suppress it also. This is going to suppress the positive emotion, and this is going to give rise to the stress, anxiety and all. One thing, it is going to strengthen negative emotion, and also this will reduce the positive emotion. So this is with respect to emotional consequence. And then we have behavioral consequences. Behavioral consequences is that when I don't manage my angry, then there will be a verbal outburst, there will be a physical outburst. So verbal outburst, physical outburst, this is going to create a social conflict, and when the social conflict happens, people are going to stay away from me, there will be a social isolation. And because of all these things, what happens, I can there is a chances that I can harm myself, I can harm others. If the anger is not controlled, one can harm himself, can also, there is a possibility of harming others also. You start beating other person also, so there is a possibility. So if it is not managed, verbal and physical outburst, it is going to happen. So with more aggressive behavior, and it is going to intensify your anger, and then the conflict, personal and professional conflicts, it is going to lead to a social isolation. And finally, if a anger is unmanaged, it can escalate physical violence, causing harm to oneself and to the others. So this is behavioral consequences. And the next part of the question, the second part of the question talks about how can it be managed, how do you manage it. The first, and you have to write it from a ethics perspective only. So how do you manage it? Through the emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence talk about self-regulation, self-awareness. Self-awareness is that awareness about your emotion, and self-regulation, here you control your emotions. So by knowing what emotions you are facing and by controlling your emotions, you are showcasing emotional intelligence. If you have emotional intelligence, you can manage your anger. Even though you are angry, these emotions, you cannot tell that 100% I get rid of these emotions. No, emotions will be there, but controlling, handling it, that is in your hand, right? Then you have a strengthening cognitive and affective component. You have to focus on cognitive restructuring, cognitive and thinking process. How do you restructure the thinking process? Through the same CAB model, cognitive affective behavior. There you focus on cognitive aspect, you focus on affective aspect. Eventually behavioral aspect is going to be impacted. So strengthening cognitive and affective component, it will lead to the cognitive restructuring, right? And then develop the positive attitudes. Usually I told you that when you are angry, when the anger is not managed properly, the negative emotions, they are going to overpower your positive emotion. Now in order to control, in order to manage the anger, you have to develop a positive attitude. Positive attitude include peace, contentment and altruism. Then there are some practices you can follow: meditation, music, reading, literature, all these things. Or if you have any hobbies, it is also can be used as a tool to control your anger. And then taking a professional help. Professional help may be counseling, therapy. All these things can also be considered to manage your anger. So this is with respect to this particular question. Next, let's move to the next one, the final question of a section A. The next question is that Max Weber said that it is not wise to apply to public administration the sort of the moral and emotional norms we apply to the matters of personal conscience. It is important to realize that the state bureaucracy might possess its own bureaucratic morality. Critically analyze. This is the question. I will explain it in a simple way. Max Weber, he told that bureaucracy has a separate value system, that is bureaucratic morality. Don't apply your personal morality, don't apply your personal conscience, it is not going to work. This is a simple way of explaining this thing. So he told that bureaucracy should only focus on bureaucratic morality, not on the personal conscience or personal subjectivity. So this is what the question is telling, and you need to critically analyze this statement, give a positive, give a negative points, and then finally give a conclusion. This is what the critical analysis talk about. Now Max Weber, he gave a theory of bureaucracy, and in this theory of bureaucracy he told that bureaucracy or the administration, there is an iron framework. There are rules, there are regulation, there are restrictions. If you are an administrator, you have to follow these rules and regulations. Every decision of yours, yours should follow these rules and restriction. There is an iron framework. You just follow the established objective. This is what theory of bureaucracy. There is no role of emotion. There is no role of these moral values in the bureaucracy. It is not at all required. Ultimately, you have to take a decision based on objectivity. So, when you are taking a decision on objectivity, what is the necessity of conscience, what is the necessity of moral values, what is the necessity of human emotions. In turn, if you apply these morals, emotions, all these things, this is going to impact the administration in a negative way. This is what theory of bureaucracy, Max Weber point of view. So, first we explain his point of view. Now, let us talk about bureaucratic morality. What exactly bureaucratic morality consists of? Bureaucratic morality, bureaucratic values, it is efficiency, it is discipline, it is hard work, it is neutral, and it is competency. Objectivity, neutrality, competency, efficiency, discipline, all these things are the values, bureaucratic values. He told that only bureaucratic values are sufficient. We don't need human values, personal values, we don't need that. We only need professional values. This is what he told. Now, let's see the merits in Weber's view. What are the positives with respect to this concept, and then we will see the limitations of this view. Finally, we see the conclusion, right? So, see, the positives of this value is administration in civil services. You have to strictly follow the rules. You have to adhere to the rules and regulation. When you have to adhere to the rules and regulation, there is no place for the personal value system. So, again, his view is that there are rules and regulations are there. Why do we need the personal value system? It is not required. So, only bureaucratic morality is sufficient. And usually what happens, if we apply personal morality here, personal value system here, then the subjectivity comes into the picture. Subjectivity comes into the picture. So, my decision, it is going to be impacted by subjectivity. So, again, in bureaucracy, everything should be based on objectivity. There is no role of subjectivity. He says that there is no role of subjectivity, everything is objectivity. So, why do we need the personal values here? It is not required. This is what Weber he was talking about. Then he told that professional morality, the bureaucratic morality, that is what required, because this professional morality, this will make administration efficient, this will make administration, the rules, the procedures or the formal methodology, everything consistent. So, it makes the administration efficiency and consistency. So, if we apply personal morality, it will make the administration inefficient, the inconsistency will come into the administration. And finally, bureaucratic morality, it is going to promote accountability and the commitment to the administration. But if you apply personal conscience, if you apply personal moral values, this is going to compromise with accountability factor, this is going to compromise with the commitment to the administration. So, this is with respect to positives, merits of Weber's view, right. Then there are limitations also. So, let us see the limitation. Limitation is that, see, most around the country, most of the society, there is a pluralistic, these are the pluralistic society. Even in India also, India is multi-religious, multi-ethnic, multi-language, it's there. There is a pluralistic society, and in this pluralistic society, no matter whatever you do, the subjectivity, it will enter into the situation. See, you cannot do the watertight compartment between subjectivity and objectivity. Subjectivity will enter, subjectivity will creep into the administration. See, I became an IAS officer at the age of 25. Till 25 years, I have certain ideologies, I have certain subjectivity in my life. As soon as I become administrator, I become an IAS officer, do you think overnight I become completely objective? It's not going to happen. The subjectivity of administrator, it will enter into the system. So, this is the limitation, one of the limitations. And then personal values, I have personal values of integrity, honesty, trustworthiness. There is an overlap between the professional morality. If I don't have honesty and integrity in my personal life, don't expect that being an IAS officer, I will be honest and I will have the value of integrity. It is not going to happen. So, there is a replication happens. If I have these positive values are going to be replicated in my professional conduct also. If I don't have these values in personal level, don't expect that it will be there in professional level also. So, I am going to be corrupt in my professional capacity. Then conflict of interest and ethical dilemma. Conflict of interest and ethical dilemma. How efficient the system is, there will be conflict of interest, there will be ethical dilemma. And theory of bureaucracy, this bureaucratic morality, it will not going to help to solve the conflict of interest or ethical dilemma. In order to solve this, you need foundational values. The foundational values, you need that personal conscience, right? This, and then if you don't have these moral principles, if you have only bureaucratic morality, the kind of moral insensitivity is going to happen in the administration, and this is going to dehumanize the entire administration. And at this point of time, we are talking about emotional intelligence, we are talking about human aspect in the administration, new public administration, and dehumanization. It is not going to be a good thing for the administration. So eventually it will lead to the moral insensitivity and dehumanization of administration. And finally, see, bureaucratic morality, it is fixed. Even after 100 years, those are the bureaucratic morality. But the society is changing. There is a progressiveness in the society. This progressiveness requires progressive values. Take an example of homosexuality. 50 years before, it was not accepted socially, but at this point of time, at least in the Western countries, it is accepted. So progressive society, even the value system is also changing. There is a progressive values. So bureaucratic morality, it is not in congruence with the progressive values. It is not going to support this progressive values. So for the progression of the society, you want subjectivity, you want individual personal value system, you want personal conscience also. So these are the limitations. Ultimately, what is the conclusion? Conclusion is that you cannot completely isolate the personal values. You cannot completely remove from the bureaucracy personal values and the professional bureaucratic values. The combination or the balance of both, it is required in the administration. So you need to maintain that balance. That is the feasible option. Both should be complementary to each other. So ultimately, bureaucracy, what you have to focus on one concept, that is fairness and justice. Whether you are following bureaucratic morality or whether you are following personal conscience, personal value, whatever it is, ultimately if it is leading to fairness, it is leading to justice, then you are doing good, then you are taking a positive step. But ultimately, by just following bureaucratic morality, it's very difficult to achieve fairness and equality. By following only personal morality, it is very difficult to achieve this. So balance of both, wherever it is required, wherever subjectivity is required, have that subjectivity. Wherever objectivity is needed, implement the objectivity. By balancing these way, you can achieve fairness and justice. So balance has to be maintained. Complete isolation is not feasible. So this is ultimate conclusion with respect to this particular question. So this covers the 2016 section A, all the questions, 8 questions, and some of the questions had A, B also. Now in the next video, we are going to take up the case studies. There are 7 or 8 case studies are there. We are going to take up again maybe 1.5 hour video. We can cover the entire case studies. So I hope you understood. Questions were quite direct and easy compared to the 2015 paper. They were simple, direct and easy. Everything you have to write it from a point wise perspective. So that within 7 minutes you have to write all these things for 10 marks. So practice it and make sure that you manage the time efficiently in the examination hall. So thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you guys in the next video, and subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment in the below the video. I'll see you guys in the next video with case studies. Thank you so much.